Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
And how did Donna Adelson feel about Dan Markel in 2014?
She hated him.
According to Donna Adelson's oldest son, Robert Adelson, Donna hated her former son-in-law. 41-year-old Dan Markel was a Florida State University law professor who was shot and killed just after pulling his car into his driveway on July 18, 2014. Dan had been married to Wendy Adelson, Donna Adelson's daughter, but the marriage didn't work out. Wendy left Dan, and in July 2013, their divorce was finalized. But there were still plenty of things for Dan and Wendy to argue about through the court system, whether it was money owed, property the other still had possession of, or most importantly, the custody of their 2 young children, who were 3 and 4 at the time. One of their main points of contention, according to the prosecution, was a relocation motion that Wendy had filed, requesting permission to move with their kids to Miami, where her family lived. That motion had been denied with prejudice, meaning it could never be requested again. But after Dan was murdered on July 18, 2014, Wendy and the 2 children did move to Miami, just days later, in fact, to be with Wendy's family, which included her mother, Donna, father, Harvey, and older brother, Charlie. After a rigorous investigation by the Tallahassee Police Department, along with the FBI, 2 hitmen from Miami were arrested and charged with Dan's murder in May 2016. One of the hitmen, Luis Rivera, pleaded guilty and agreed to testify against not only the other hitman, his best friend Sigfredo Garcia, but everyone else the state prosecuted in connection with the murder. According to Luis, Sigfredo got the job from the mother of his 2 children, Catherine Magbanoa. In turn, Sigfredo had asked Luis to help. The murder was in Tallahassee, and they were going to be paid $100,000, split 3 ways. As for the connection between Catherine Magbanoa and Dan Markel, Catherine was dating Charlie Adelson, Wendy Adelson's brother, at the time of his murder. After Luis Rivera pleaded guilty and was sentenced, Sigfredo Garcia and Catherine Magbanoa were tried together in October 2019. I covered this trial in episode 93. Sigfredo was found guilty, but the jury was hung on Catherine. Then, just weeks before Catherine's retrial, Charlie Adelson was arrested and charged with the murder. Catherine went on to be found guilty in May 2022. I also covered that trial in episode 204. Charlie was tried in October 2023, and he was also convicted. I covered that one in episode 258. 1 week after Charlie's conviction in November 2023, his mother, Donna Adelson, was then arrested.
And just days later, she was stopped by law enforcement on the jetway in Miami International Airport, where she was boarding her one-way flight to Vietnam. And she was then charged for her participation in the murder of Dan Markel.
Donna's trial started in August 2025. A lot of it contained testimony that those of us who have been following this case and all the arrests and all the trials are already familiar with. So I'm not going to go into that too much more than what I already have stated thus far. If you want a more complete background on this case, please check out the prior trials I covered in my prior episodes. Today, we'll go over the testimony the state just presented against Donna, And as those of you who have been following this case closely know, oftentimes these prosecutors have, whether intentionally or not, given us some major clues about whether we can see even more arrests in this case in the future. And so, will we see more arrests?
On July the 18th of 2014, he was brutally murdered in his driveway. Isn't that true?
That is true.
And you testified on direct that anybody in your family that had anything to do with it should be held responsible. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And that includes you, doesn't it?
Anyone who's responsible.
This is Jillian in partnership with Law and Crime. You are listening to Court Junkie. According to prosecutor Sarah Catherine Dugan in her opening statements, part of the investigation into Dan Markel's murder included following the money in this case. Investigators saw that in the months after the homicide, Sigfredo Garcia, Luis Rivera, and Catherine Magbanua all acquired some big-ticket items. Not only that, but Catherine was curiously receiving checks from the Adelson Institute.
About 2 months after the murder, this defendant added Catherine Magbanua to the payroll at the Adelson family's dental practice, the one that she kept the accounts for, the defendant kept the accounts for. And the defendant started issuing her regular checks from their business account every 2 weeks, despite the fact that she did not work there at the time. Magbanua didn't work there. Law enforcement noticed that each one of the 44 checks that were written to Catherine Magbanua every 2 weeks over the course of the next 2 years after the murder were signed by this defendant, Donna Adelson.
When looking at the communication patterns in this case, prosecutor Dugan said the phone calls always went from Donna to her son Charlie, and then from Charlie to his girlfriend Catherine, then from Catherine to Sigfredo Garcia, and then back the other way.
Like train cars. They only seem to touch the car directly in front and directly behind them. The defendant never calls her son's girlfriend, Catherine Magbanua, or the shooter, or vice versa. Charlie Adelson never calls the shooter, or vice versa. So, if this is a murder for hire conspiracy, as law enforcement suspects, could it be that the defendant and Charlie Adelson are wisely insulating themselves from the actual shooters by having Magbanua act as the middleman? Law enforcement decided to launch an undercover operation designed to clarify who are the members of this conspiracy and how information was traveling within the conspiracy.
Prosecutor Dugan told the jury how police applied for and were granted permission to listen in real time to the phone calls of Charlie Adelson and Catherine Magbanua. At this point, it was April 2016. Charlie and Catherine had broken up and had been for over a year. Catherine was back together with Sigfredo, and Charlie had many other girlfriends, but the two remained close friends in regular contact. Luis was in prison, doing time on an unrelated charge. Prosecutor Dugan said Donna, by then, was happily taking care of her grandkids every day.
So all the members of this conspiracy have presumably gone on with their lives, believing they've gotten away with murder. So what reason would they have to be discussing the murder at that point if police are listening in? They wouldn't. So police needed to stage an event that would generate some conversation, some activity between the members of the conspiracy so they could see who the members of the conspiracy were. Their plan was to send an undercover agent posing as someone on behalf of Luis Rivera. He was the hitman who was incarcerated by April of 2016, to walk up to the defendant, Donna Adelson, on the street. There's a fly right in front of me that won't leave me alone. To walk up to Donna Adelson on the street and try to blackmail her for money. Law enforcement refers to this as a bump. So, this undercover agent posing as a blackmailer, and this is an actual picture from the from the surveillance cameras that this is the undercover agent passing a piece of paper to Donna Adelson back in 2016. This undercover agent is posing as a blackmailer. He hands the defendant a piece of paper, and on the piece of paper is a news article about Dan Markel's murder. And written on the piece of paper is a phone number and the amount of $5,000. He tells the defendant that he knows the Adelsons are taking care of Katie, and he's basically there to blackmail to get more money out of them or out of her on Rivera's behalf to even things out because he knows they're taking care of Katie. He never says Charlie Adelson's name or anything about Charlie Adelson to Donna Adelson. The defendant then puts the piece of paper in her purse and walks away without ever looking at the piece of paper because she knew exactly what it was about.
She said afterwards, the investigators started listening in to see what would happen.
Will the defendant go straight to the police to report the blackmail? Or will she do something else entirely? And as suspected, based on the previously observed communication pattern, the first person that this defendant calls is Charlie Adelson, despite the fact that the blackmailer never mentioned Charlie Adelson to her. On that first call, you would think the first thing that Donna Adelson would say to Charlie Adelson is, "Oh my God, it's so crazy. Some man just came up to me, handed me an article about Danny's murder, and he's demanding money from us." But she never says any of that. In fact, the defendant never says Dan Markel's name at all. Instead, she tells Charlie Adelson that she needs to talk to him in person about some paperwork that was just delivered to her. She said that it involves the two of us, and that he should know what she's talking about. The defendant and Charlie Adelson continue talking, and she says that he should bring cash to their meeting. And she says, the TV is probably about 5.
She said Donna told Charlie that the man who approached her had mentioned an ex-girlfriend, but she never said which one.
Charlie Adelson never asked his mom, "My ex-girlfriend? Which ex-girlfriend? He's had a lot." He never asked that. Because as the evidence will show, he didn't need to. He knew the TV is probably 5 meant that she was being blackmailed about Danny's murder, where the TV was the alibi, and he knew that the ex-girlfriend in question was the only ex-girlfriend that he had solicited to find a hitman for him, Catherine McBanois.
She said afterwards, Charlie immediately called Catherine, none of his other ex-girlfriends. She noted that neither Charlie nor Donna ever called the police to report this extortion attempt.
You all will hear the calls between the conspirators, and as you listen to these, you'll notice that they're being very cautious about what they say. It's apparent that they're being very careful about the words they use because they are all immediately suspicious that law enforcement could be behind the bump. Law enforcement could be the person who came up to them on the street and gave her the paperwork. And law enforcement could also be listening to their conversations.
She said Charlie and Donna then met up in person, where Donna gave Charlie the paper. Charlie then met with Catherine at a restaurant called Dolce Vita, while an undercover FBI agent recorded their conversation from a seat nearby.
And in the recording, we hear Charlie Adelson discussing whether the man who walked up to his mother could be an undercover police officer, or he could be someone trying to legitimately blackmail them. And if it's a blackmailer, is it somebody who just saw a way to make a quick buck? Or is it another situation entirely which would be much worse for the Adelsons. Is it actually someone with inside information about Donna Adelson's role in the murder of Dan Markel? And that person could tell police what they know. Charlie Adelson reassures Katie, Catherine Magbanua, that if it is the police, that is a good thing. Charlie Adelson thinks that, hey, if it's the police, that means the police don't have enough evidence to charge anybody. They're just fishing for information. And in fact, Charlie Adelson tells her, hey, if they had any evidence, we would have already gone to the airport.
Prosecutor Dugan said that at this point, no arrests had been made. After their meeting, Catherine contacted Sigfredo Garcia, and Charlie contacted Donna.
And in the series of recorded calls that y'all are going to hear later this week, you'll hear these conspirators talking and using words like TV, relationship advice, false leads, listings, patients, properties, clients, rap songs, CDs, pigs, all these terms that are obviously normal words, but they're used in context that, if you're listening to the conversation, don't make sense.
Prosecutor Dugan said that according to Luis Rivera, after the murder, he received money from Catherine. The money was in stacks and was stapled together.
During this trial, you'll hear that the Adelson family had access to a lot of cash because their family gave cash discounts at their dental practice. Like if you paid in cash, you would have to pay less than if you paid on a card or check. And they kept the cash that they received in stacks, and they stored it in a safe. Law enforcement also learned from Charlie Adelson's friends that Charlie Adelson had a very unusual practice of keeping his money in these $1,000 stacks that were stapled together, just like the money Rivera received.
Prosecutor Dugan told the jury that at first, Catherine insisted she had no knowledge of the murder and that the Adelsons must have gone around her to hire the hitmen directly. After her conviction, she finally decided to testify and admit that she was the connection between the Adelson family and the killers.
Magbanua testified in Charlie Adelson's trial in October of 2023 and said that Charlie Adelson wanted to hire someone to kill his sister's ex because his mom was stressed out over all of the problems his sister was having with her ex-husband. Magbanua said Charlie painted a picture that Wendy's ex was this terrible man causing his mom so much stress that she couldn't sleep or eat. Magbanua agreed to help him and ended up recruiting her children's father, Garcia, and also Rivera to kill Dan Markel.
Prosecutor Dugan told the jury that within hours of Charlie's conviction in 2023, Donna began to plan to flee the U.S. to a country that she could not be extradited from in order to avoid being arrested for Dan's murder. She said after Donna was charged, police received information from fellow inmates who said Donna was offering them bribes in exchange for false testimony in this trial.
They said Donna Adelson promised them money, housing, veneers, prescription drugs, if they were willing to testify that Catherine Magbanua told them a completely different story about the crime than the one that she would be testifying to.
She told the jury that Donna conspired with Charlie, who solicited Catherine to get this murder done.
And then this defendant paid her with cash, with checks for the job once it was completed. The defendant acted in furtherance of this murder plot that went beyond just thinking about it or just talking about it. And these acts make her guilty as a principal to first-degree murder, just as if she was the one pulling the trigger in the garage herself.
In her opening statements, Donna's attorney, Jackie Fulford, praised Dan Markel. She said he worked very hard and that he didn't deserve what happened to him. She said Dan and Wendy squabbled during their divorce, but when the murder occurred, the divorce had been over for a year.
On July 31st, when the final judgment was entered, relocation was over. The state told you that. The court denied it with prejudice. she could never raise it again. Nobody was fighting anymore about where these little boys would be.
She said on the day of Dan's murder, Donna was working.
I want to talk to you now about my client, Donna Adelson. She is a normal person, just like all of us. At the time that this happened, she was 64 years old, married to her husband, Dr. Adelson, a dentist. Now they've been married 54 years. It was somewhere in the 40-year range when this happened 11 years ago. And she got up in the morning and went to work, not at her and Harvey's business, like you were just told. She went to the business owned by her son. Every morning, they got up and they went to work. She did the books. She kept the books. She greeted patients. She got charts out. At 7:30 every morning, she was there and organized and had everybody ready to go because they had a little staff meeting. So everybody could know what to expect, what patients they were going to see, what they were going to take care of. She was there working, sometimes late into the evening, just like all of us. She's a normal person. People who know Donna will tell you that she is not the person that the state is portraying her to be. She's kind, caring, loving. She cares more about people than she does about herself.
She said much of what the state said, they can prove. Like Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera were the killers. Catherine Magbanua was the one who set it up and paid them the money. The money was in stacks and was stapled, which was exactly what Charlie did with his money. That on July 19th, 2014, Charlie gave approximately between $130,000 and $138,000 that he had in his safe to Catherine.
They can prove and have that he paid her to get them to kill Danny Markel. That's what they can prove. And they've done it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. This case is really a lot about theory and motive and not evidence. The state has a theory, and for the past 9 to 11 years, in fairness, probably 9 years, they have told the whole world that Mrs. Adelson was the reason that this happened. Mrs. Adelson was the reason that this happened. They've told this story, and it's outrageous. It gets people's attention. It's made a lot of money for the media, interviews, specials. Some people in jury selection said they had watched these specials. Lawyers on there, investigators on there. They made a lot of money for the media, and it got big attention because this is outrageous, what happened. It is truly outrageous. But what's more outrageous is, without any evidence, only motive and theory, they put her at the top of this pyramid. She's the matriarch. She's the matriarch mastermind behind Danny being killed. And they don't have evidence of that. That's what's outrageous. It's outrageous that he got killed, but it's also outrageous that we're sitting here with a jury and you're going to hear a lot of theory, a lot of motive, and a lot of what they believe the evidence means. They don't get to decide that. The evidence is what the evidence is, and I ask you to patiently sit here and really pay attention to all of the evidence that you hear, every witness that they put on, every piece of evidence that they present to you, all of it.
She said Charlie instructed his mom to put Catherine Magbanua on the payroll at the Adelson Institute, and she did it. It was his money, not hers, she said. She told the jury there's no evidence that Donna was involved in Dan's murder. Now retired investigator Craig Isom took the stand on day one of Donna Adelson's trial. He was asked about interviewing the people closest to Dan Markel as part of the initial investigation. He said he approached Wendy Adelson at a restaurant in Tallahassee on Market Street, a little bit after police responded to the shooting at about 2:15 in the afternoon.
What did you say when you approached her?
I told her that I needed to discuss something with her in private. She was with two other individuals at the table.
Two ladies having lunch?
Three total, yes.
All right. And when you told her that you need to speak with her, were you wearing police insignia? Did you identify yourself as law enforcement?
Immediately before I identified myself and said that I was there for the purpose of speaking with Wendy Adelson.
Okay.
And I had my badge on that was readily identifiable as a police officer.
All right. And did you reassure her that she wasn't in any trouble? Did you?
Yes, I got her to step away from the table she was eating at, approximately 10, 15 feet out of earshot of the other two individuals that were sitting at the table. And I told her that I needed to discuss with her something that happened with her ex-husband and that her children were not involved. I reassured her because the children had already been checked on. They were still at the daycare and they were fine.
As part of this approach of Wendy Adelson, were there any handcuffs involved?
No.
Any Miranda rights read?
No.
Any use of force at all?
No.
She was not detained or under arrest?
No.
At any time, did you tell her she was a suspect in anything?
No.
Was she a suspect in anything at that moment?
No.
At any time during your interview, did you do anything that would treat her as a suspect?
No.
In fact, you told her several times in the interview that she was not a suspect. Isn't that right?
I did.
He testified about how contentious the divorce and post-divorce proceedings were between Dan and Wendy, and how Wendy would forward Dan's filings to Donna. One was referred to by the prosecution as the grandma motion.
What is the gist of what it is that Dan Markel is requesting?
He does not want Donna Adelson to have unsupervised contact with his children.
Why not?
Because of the statements that are made in here, and that was shown in the court filing, that the children reflected that Grandma says you're stupid, Grandma says she hates you.
In emails from Donna to Wendy, Donna referred to Dan as an asshole, a major fucker, and she stressed that Wendy's relocation efforts to Miami were very important. In June 2013, 5 days after the relocation motion by Wendy was denied, Donna proposed another plan to get the kids to be able to relocate to Miami.
So this is done after the court's ruling.
Correct.
And relocation is still being discussed.
Yes.
Okay. What does she suggest?
She suggests that the children between Wendy and Dan start attending, or her at least the ruse of them going to a Christian church or a Catholic church.
And to take pictures of it and send it to Dan Markel, right?
Yes.
To strong-arm him into agreeing to the relocation, right?
Correct. Coercion.
Did Donna Adelson, the defendant in this case, suggest a bribe to Dan Markel to cause him to allow these kids to be moved to South Florida?
Yes.
Draw your attention to tab W. What is the proposal in reference to this bribe?
$1 million.
$1 million.
Yes.
Luis Rivera, one of the hired hitmen, also testified on day one of Donna's trial. Luis had pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in this case and is currently serving out his 19 years in prison.
And what was the purpose of this murder as you understood it?
That they wanted the kids.
Who wanted the kids?
Wendy.
Okay. And did you understand that you were killing the father of the kids so that Wendy could have the kids?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you previously referred to a dentist being involved?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was the dentist?
Charlie.
And how was he related?
Katie's boyfriend, side piece, whatever you want to call him.
All right, so Katie was the wife of Garcia, but also the girlfriend of the dentist?
Yeah.
He said he never had any contact with any member of the Adelson family, that everything went through Katie. He said he knows nothing about that family, and that Katie was the one who got them the money. He testified that when they went to Tallahassee, Sigfredo had a piece of paper with a picture of Dan Markel on it and the address where he lived. He and Sigfredo went to Tallahassee once in June 2014 and then again in July. They rented a car both times. He said on that first trip, they just followed Dan around, but ended up not killing him. Prosecutor Georgia Kappelman asked if there was a reason the murder was done on that day that it was, in July.
I believe so. I believe he was about to leave.
Who was about to leave?
Markel.
About to leave town?
Yeah.
How did you get that information?
I got it from Tudo.
Where did he get the information?
From Katie.
How did she know?
Wendy.
You think Wendy talked to Katie and told her Dan Markel's travel plans?
Yeah.
Were you present for that
No.
phone call? Okay. But somehow you learned that Dan Markel was leaving town the day after he was killed.
Yes, ma'am.
So it had to be done that day or he'd be gone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that came through Garcia to you from Katie.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you say Wendy, did you know who Wendy was at the time that all this happened?
No, ma'am.
Okay, but you did know there was a lady that you were helping get some kids back in Tallahassee.
Yes, ma'am.
Investigator Jason Newland was tasked with looking through documents and digital evidence to prove that Donna Adelson was aware of certain filings from Wendy and Dan's divorce. In September 2012, for example, Wendy filed for divorce. On September 9th, 2012, Wendy emailed her mom about that filing. In another motion, Wendy announced that she would be switching attorneys. Prior to that, there were emails from Donna indicating that she was aware of the attorney change. In another email, Donna had crafted a draft email for Wendy to send to her new attorney. In December 2012, Wendy filed Wife's Answer to Husband's Counterpetition for Dissolution of Marriage. Wendy forwarded it to both Donna and her father, Harvey. Also in December 2012, Wendy sent another motion to Donna, amended petition for dissolution of marriage, and request to be allowed to relocate with the minor children. Wendy wrote in the email, "Here it is, let's edit."
And does Wendy cut and paste mom's questions and then send them to the attorney as her own questions?
She does.
Okay. And then does she, upon getting a response from the lawyer, does Wendy send the lawyer's answer on to her mother?
She does.
A few months later, the motion was filed. Investigator Newland testified that Donna emailed others about Wendy's filings, even commenting how she was in Wendy's kitchen at her table, working on her response to Danny's response to her relocation petition. At another point, Donna's deposition was being sought in the divorce. She and Wendy emailed back and forth about it, and Donna wrote, "Wow, he is such a royal jackass. How smart are you to get rid of this piece of shit? Arg." Another email from June 2013 from Donna to Wendy talked about Dan's travel.
"Hi, honey. So here's the info I had for travel since Ben was born. And there's a list from 2009 travels, 2010 travels, 2011 travels, 2012 travels that Donna Adelson would have sent to Wendy Adelson, reference Dan Markel's travel."
So what's the purpose of documenting Dan Markel's travel?
Essentially to say he was absent most of the time.
I'm going to object to the investigator offering his opinion. Overruled, the investigator may answer these questions based on his review of these documents and investigation in this matter. You may continue.
Specifically outlined in detail by Donna Adelson and present in Wendy's filings that Dan traveled too much to be a present father.
Correct.
And in support of that, does Donna here send Wendy a detailed accounting for every trip that Dan Markel has taken since the birth of their first child?
It does.
And we don't know how it is that she came to possess this information, or do we?
She kept track of a lot of things.
Okay.
Wendy's relocation petition was officially denied on June 20th, 2013.
Does the defendant acknowledge that this relocation order has come down?
She does, in an email to a friend.
When is the email sent?
June 24th, 2013.
So just 3 days after the filing of the order?
Correct.
And what does she say to the friend about losing relocation?
Unfortunately, after paying a lawyer $600 an hour for 10 months of case preparation, the judge listened to Wendy testify for 1 hour. Nothing. Well, I'll do this. The judge took a break and asked one question. I'm not hearing about any physical abuse by the father. Has he been pulling out their toenails? When Wendy said no, the judge said, well, I've made up my mind. No physical abuse, no relocation. Outrageous. So at the moment, she will not be allowed to relocate.
At the moment?
At the moment.
All right. How does she conclude that email?
Anyway, if I sound angry, it's because I am. We're all very upset and cannot believe the outcome. Sorry I didn't mean to respond this way, but I'm beyond angry.
On June 25th, 2013, Donna emailed Wendy, just like it says on your necklace, never, never, never give up. She went on to say, it's time for action.
It's time for action. It's time to take control of your life and not let Jibbers think he's just won anything by having you remain in Tallahassee, 8 hours away from the only family you have, and lose out on what will be a job that will afford you and your children advantages that they will never otherwise be able to enjoy. Let's show this F what will make him absolutely miserable. Fast forward, however, the rest of your life, and consequently Dad's, mine, and yes, even Charlie's, will be affected by how well you can perform or act before July 31st. You can be a good actress when you want to. I've seen you in action. You need to put on the performance of your life. Jibbers hasn't beaten the Adelson family yet. You have a very strong family behind you. Dad and I have done everything we can to try to help you for the last 10 months. Now it's time to help yourself. Fast forward. If you can put these actions before everything else this next month, and you know that you've only got the kids a limited number of days to do this, we believe that Jibbers will be saying, stop this, and you'll be telling him, you wanted me in Tallahassee? My children are going to fit in this Bible Belt. They're going to church every time I have them. I'm having them privately tutored at home to get them caught up for Sunday school classes. Tell him that you've got a new outlook on life and a new hope, and you'd like to go to heaven. Perhaps he would like to join you and the boys at church.
Donna then went on to detail a plan of action, saying to take a photo of their two boys dressed nicely at the front door or by the sign of a Tallahassee church. Then change her Facebook status photo to that one, so everyone will see. Perhaps a line under the photo with "New Beginnings in Tallahassee" might be nice, she wrote. She also told Wendy to arrange for a tutor to come to the house to teach the boys about Jesus, telling her that if she doesn't have time to do that, Donna will happily do it for her. She also said, let Jibbers know that your children will be baptized in the Catholic Church. She said she has already looked into it and a baptism can be arranged in 2 weeks. Donna wrote in all caps, take control from him. Get to him psychologically. He's going to want you to stop this. She then wrote that she was planning on making a financial offer to Dan to allow the relocation. Then, it's time for you to show us that you can put on the performance of your life for the next few weeks. She signed it, Love, Mom and Dad, but investigator Newland noted that there were multiple references to Dad and I throughout the email, so it came from Donna. On October 31st, 2013, Halloween, in another filing, Wendy alleged that Dan hadn't paid her what he owed. Dan responded, and Donna and Wendy exchanged more emails. Donna wrote, "Something has to be done with this asshole." In February 2014, 5 months prior to the murder, Dan offered to settle.
And what is he saying about the settlement?
One of the suggestions is neither party will seek to relocate in the future with the children without the consent of the other party. If the offer above is not accepted by the deadline, minute fast forward, Mr. Markel will file his motions and memoranda and supporting documents that detail how Ms. Adelson failed to disclose substantial assets in violation of the Florida rules and the master settlement agreement. How Ms. Adelson fraudulently induced the settlement, how she made numerous instances of demonstrably false testimony before the court and under oath in deposition, how she ignored court orders, discovery requests, and made false responses to the latter.
And Wendy Adelson was a lawyer, member of the Florida Bar at the time, right?
She was.
May still be, I don't know. Okay, go ahead.
If this offer is not accepted by the deadline, Mr. Markel will file his motion and memoranda of law and supporting documents, and these will allege, and with other evidence, demonstrate that Ms. Adamson engaged in misconduct, including but not limited to filing a frivolous petition to relocate that had already been deemed impossible to win by another board-certified lawyer, standing by silently while her client divulged privileged attorney-client information, advising Ms. Adelson to interfere with Mr. Markel's parental rights.
And I think there's one more, yeah.
And becoming a willing instrumentality of or participant in Ms. Adelson's financial misconduct related to the disclosures and discovery process related therein.
So he's going after Wendy, and he's going after her lawyer as well, right?
That's correct.
Wendy also forwarded this motion to her mother.
Please state your name and spell your name.
Wendy Adelson, WendyAdelson.
As she had done in each prior trial involving the murder of her ex-husband, Dan Markel, Wendy Adelson testified at her mom's trial under limited immunity, meaning that anything she said couldn't be used against her in the future. She was asked if her divorce from Dan was a contentious divorce, and she said yes, it was. As for why she wanted to relocate, she said she got a better job offer in South Florida and that it would be more stable for her.
Did you consider the worst case scenario to be that you would end up stuck here in Tallahassee if your petition was denied?
I don't know. I mean, at the time, I may have felt that way.
Okay. Might you have sent an email to a friend on March 24th of 2013 indicating, quote, "I do fear that the worst case scenario that could happen is that I will be stuck here in Tallahassee"?
It's possible that I sent that.
Prosecutor Kappelman asked her if Donna was the dominant force in their household. Wendy said both of her parents were equally strong in their parenting.
Okay, did you previously describe this back in 2013 that your mom was the dominant force in the household? If you need to refresh, it's tab 97.
Okay. Yes.
You did say mom was the dominant force in the household.
Yes.
Did your mom ever try to micromanage your life?
Yes.
Your career?
I don't know about my career. I chose to be a lawyer. It wasn't a very popular choice in my household.
Yes, and there were different types of areas of law that she would have preferred you practice. Do you agree with that?
I actually think they were really proud of what I was doing.
Not to suggest she wasn't proud of you, but she was encouraging you to pursue a different type of law that would be more lucrative. Do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
And what about your dating life? Did she meddle there?
Yes.
Did she create a dating profile for you on Match.com?
I don't know if it was Match.com, but I do remember a dating profile at some point.
That she created for you?
I didn't use it, but yes.
And conducted searches for men in the Miami area and sent them to you.
I think this was when I was living in D.C., maybe.
Prosecutor Kappelman pulled up an email from January 2013 where Donna wrote, "Okay, honey, so you think I'm nuts, but when you get a moment, check out some of these whom I've pre-screened for you." Then she listed 6 profile names from a dating site. She wrote, "Just sharing some interesting possibilities. After all, you're going to be in Miami here and there. Why not see what's out there? Give it a look at least, for me. Love you, Mom."
Did you ever feel like your mom was walking all over you?
I don't remember feeling that way.
Okay, what about specifically regarding this divorce?
I don't. I mean, I had a really good attorney and I was making the decisions I wanted to make.
Okay. And did you, back in April of 2013, tell a friend that you were trying to find a way to coexist with your mom that didn't feel like she was trampling your autonomy?
I'm sure I said that in 2013.
How did your mom feel about Dan Markel in this time frame, 2012 to 2016?
And I think I think a lot changed between 2012 and 2016. So I think her feelings about him changed over time.
Okay, and what about in 2016? Did she hate Dan Markel?
No, not in 2016.
What about 2014? Did she hate him then?
No.
Did you say do you remember giving a law enforcement interview in reference to this case?
Yes, I remember.
That was the same day that Mr. Markel was shot, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and did you say in that interview for court and counsel, I'm referring to page 288, lines 24 through 289, line 1, quote, "My parents have more reason to dislike Danny than almost anyone else."
At that point, I was sitting with law enforcement for 6 hours and had just been told that Danny had been shot. So I was in shock and I was trying to help the police think of anything I could possibly think of that would be helpful.
And are you suggesting that after 6 hours you became fatigued to the point that you started saying things that weren't true?
No, I didn't say anything that wasn't true. I just was in shock. I just kept talking and talking and talking.
She was asked if at the time of Dan's murder, Donna was angry at Dan. Wendy said yes.
Did you ever refer to your ex-husband as the Dark Lord?
I don't remember saying that, but I certainly might have.
Did you refer to your ex-husband as Jibbers?
I did.
What is the meaning of Jibbers?
Jibbers was just a silly name that a friend helped me come up with to basically make him feel less scary. It was nonsense.
Did it reference Jew in boots?
That I don't remember.
It wasn't a friendly name, right?
It was a silly name.
Did you ever say that you hated Dan Markel?
I don't remember saying it, but I certainly could have.
Tab 31, please, to refresh your memory.
I said that I hate him in this moment.
Okay, and did you say in that email, that same email, quote, "I hate that I hate my children's dad"?
I did.
And do you agree that email was sent approximately 15 months before Mr. Markel was murdered?
It was in April of 2013.
She agreed that she called Dan an emotional terrorist in December 2013, 7 months before his murder.
And tab 35, in June of 2014, did you say of your ex-husband, "I hate him so"?
I did write that.
And that was approximately 3 weeks before Mr. Markel was murdered, correct?
Yes.
She was asked if when she left Dan, he threatened her in the pleadings with federal kidnapping charges for taking the kids. She said yes.
Was Mr. Markel seeking to depose your mother as part of the divorce proceedings?
I don't remember that.
What about your brother, Charlie? Did he care about whether you moved to South Florida or not?
I think so. I mean, I think he would have liked for me to be closer to him and have the kids closer to him.
Would it have been okay with him if you had made a decision to stay in Tallahassee?
I would have imagined so, yes.
And after the relocation motion was denied, you were kind of like, well, maybe I have to stay in Tallahassee. Wasn't there at least a moment of that for you?
I mean, it wasn't maybe. That was the court's decision, and I respect the court's decision, and, you know, I would make the best of it.
What about Charlie? Was he outraged by the court's decision?
I honestly don't remember him being outraged.
But to your mom, it was a big deal.
My mom was really upset.
Yeah. It was described by your mom in several places as like a life and death proposition. Do you agree with that?
I think my mom thought my life in Tallahassee wasn't good.
She was asked if it's true that she would never have left Dan if it wasn't for her mom. She said no.
Did you ever write that you would have never left him without your mom's suggestions?
I don't remember saying that.
Please refer to tab 41 and see if it refreshes your memory.
I do say here I wouldn't have done it on my own.
Okay. Do you specifically reference your mom?
I say my parents and brother's suggestions and support.
Okay.
She agreed that Donna was extremely concerned about Wendy and Dan's kids' well-being due to Dan's religious practices. She testified that she was never going to do any of the suggestions Donna had sent to her after the relocation was denied.
Do you remember her imploring you to put on a good act?
I do.
Did your mom, I don't know, do you have any acting training?
No.
Do you know why your mom would Google how to teach an actress emotion?
I don't. I don't know.
Did she ever share with you or forward you any tips on how to bring emotion or fake emotion?
Not that I remember of any kind.
Prosecutor Kappelman asked Wendy about the motion she filed on Halloween 2013.
The day that you filed that motion to enforce the marital settlement agreement and hold Dan Markel in contempt. Let's see if I can find that. What was the date of that filing?
It looks like it was October 31st, 2013.
Was that the same date that you backed out of the contract to buy a house here in Tallahassee?
I don't remember if it was the same date, but at that point I didn't have the money I needed to buy the house because Danny didn't pay what he was supposed to.
Okay, but you don't remember which day you backed out of buying the house?
I don't.
Could it have been the same day that this was filed? Halloween of 13?
It may have been.
Okay, and was it Charlie, your brother, who talked you out of buying the house?
No, I didn't have the money to buy the house.
So you don't remember him discussing that with you?
No.
Okay. And did your mom have a position one way or the other on whether you would buy the house?
I don't remember.
The image that I just had up there, was this image sent to you on October 31st? How did this get onto your cell phone dated October 31st?
It looks like something my brother would have sent me at some point. I don't remember if it was what day it was, but I remember seeing that picture.
Okay, do you have any reason to dispute the metadata associated with it on your phone?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and you recognize your brother in this photo?
I do.
And who's the woman he's pictured with here?
Katie.
Is that Catherine McBanoa?
Yes.
So did your brother at any time send you this picture? Not at any time. Did your brother on October 31st send you this picture and basically tell you not to buy the house because you weren't going to be living in Tallahassee much longer?
I don't remember him ever telling me not to buy the house or that I wasn't going to be living in Tallahassee. I really wanted to buy that house.
Wendy was asked if her mom moved in the spring of 2014. She said she doesn't think so.
Do you remember your parents signing a lease at a place called the Continuum?
My parents were spending some time there on the weekends, but they didn't move until 2015 when I was clerking for a judge at that time.
All right, so they signed a lease to have sort of a weekend property. Was that in South Beach?
Yes.
Okay, and that does March of 14 sound right for that?
I don't remember when they signed a lease there, but it's possible.
Well, when you ultimately left Tallahassee, which we'll get to, did you go to live at the Continuum or at Coral Springs or somewhere else?
In Miami at the Continuum.
And do you know why they chose to move into the Continuum? I mean, this is about 3-4 months before the murder.
My brother had a girlfriend that lived there, and he really liked the property, and he thought maybe my parents might like to retire there. So he was suggesting that they start trying someplace other than Coral Springs to retire.
And did your mom add you as a resident to the Continuum on May 16th of 2014?
I don't remember that, but the Continuum, the apartment complex, had very high security. Mm-hmm. And so it may have been that if you wanted someone to come and not be considered a guest, they had to be considered a resident.
Okay, tab 95, please. And the question is, would you have been considered a resident as of May 16th of 2014?
And I don't know. So you want me to see whether on this document I was added as a resident?
Yes, ma'am.
It looks like I was added and my brother were added. And then my other brother was the in case of emergency. And it was in April of 2014.
April of 2014. Okay, so about 3 months before the murder?
Yes.
And that was just so that you could come and go whenever you were visiting?
That was my understanding.
In March 2014, the Grandma motion was filed. Prosecutor Kappelman asked Wendy if she remembered why she never forwarded that motion on to her mother. Wendy said no. Prosecutor Kappelman then displayed an email from Donna from around that time frame where Donna said she was coming up to Tallahassee. When asked about her brother Charlie, Wendy agreed he didn't like Dan and that he had joked that he had gotten her a new TV as a divorce present because it was cheaper than hiring a hitman. That same TV was being repaired at Wendy's on the morning of Dan's murder.
And on the morning of the murder, did your mom text you about the TV repair guy being on the way or coming to your house?
She did. I didn't buy the TV, and the TV had an insurance policy that came with the Geek Squad help. So I think they reached out to her first, and then she let me know that they were coming.
The TV was under warranty, right?
I believe so.
But the damage that you had was not covered by the warranty, was it?
I don't think so.
Okay. And do you recall how long the TV repairman was at your house?
I don't. It was a reasonable amount of time, so maybe an hour or so.
And why did it take an hour to determine that the TV couldn't be repaired or was not under warranty?
I don't know. I don't know a lot about AV equipment.
And the TV repair guy, well, I guess I should ask, were you upset, crying and upset during the time that the TV repairman was there?
I don't think so.
Were you particularly upset about the TV, the fact that the TV couldn't be repaired?
I don't think so.
Okay, so the TV guy, to your recollection, didn't actually do anything. He didn't fix the TV, didn't take it away, he didn't bring you a new one.
No. He was trying to fix it. I mean, I think he was trying to assess what the problem was and if it could be fixed, but it wasn't taken away.
The problem was like an impact to the screen, right?
It seemed to be that, yeah.
Harvey Adelson's 70th birthday party was on July 5th, 2014, and Wendy said she went down to Miami to be with her family for his party. Much of Wendy's testimony was what we have heard from her before, how she met Catherine Magbanua twice, went to the beach with her in the weeks prior to the murder, her relationship with Jeff Lacasse, her driving by the crime scene after the shooting.
Or a little bit after noon, I was meeting two friends who I would frequently meet on a Friday to have lunch with. And so I went to run a few quick errands and then meet them for lunch.
And on your way to meet the friends, did you have an occasion to go down Trescott?
I was trying to turn down Trescott. That's where I used to turn and take just the road I was used to. But there was yellow tape up. And so when I tried to turn, I couldn't turn. So I made a 3-point turn and kept going on Centerville.
And so you encountered a police roadblock at that location?
Yes.
Okay, couldn't go any further because there was a police car and some yellow tape, right?
Right.
And that was, you were able to see that from the intersection there, or you actually turned onto Trescott?
I tried to turn, and then I couldn't go through, so I turned around and kept going.
How far down Trescott did you proceed before you turned around?
Just until the tape.
Okay. Which one of you or your ex-husband had the kids the night before he was killed?
The night before, they were with Danny.
All right. So it was his responsibility to take them to preschool that morning?
Yes.
Who was supposed to pick them up from preschool that day?
I was supposed to pick them up.
Had you talked to Dan Markel or your children that morning before you encountered the roadblock?
I hadn't talked to the boys because I wouldn't have talked to them, they didn't have cell phones, they were little. So I only would have spoken to them if I had gone to the preschool and seen them, but I didn't do that. So I hadn't talked to the boys. I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question?
How about Dan? Did you speak to him that morning?
We didn't. We had plans to talk. We had traded some text messages and emails, and then I called him and he didn't pick up, and that was the last contact.
Did you attempt to call Dan Markel when you encountered the roadblock?
No.
Did you attempt to call your kids' daycare after encountering the roadblock?
No.
Did you notify anyone that you observed the roadblock?
I was talking on the phone at the time, so I may have said to the person I was talking to, I'm trying to drive, but I have to turn around, hold on.
Okay, that was probably a bad question. Did you attempt to investigate in any way or ask anyone what the roadblock was about?
I wasn't concerned about the roadblock.
She was asked if she knew that Dan was scheduled to leave town the day after he was killed.
I don't remember if he was scheduled to leave town on Friday afternoon or on Saturday morning, but I know that he would go to New York every time he had a chance, and I think that was where he was going. But I don't know when he was leaving.
Okay, if you'll take a look at not the binder we've been using, but the other binder, should have your law enforcement interview on the front.
Okay.
And I would just ask you to review page 159, lines 10 and 11.
Sorry, when he had plans to be out of town, he was leaving on Saturday. Okay. So it looks like I knew that he was leaving Saturday.
All right. And you knew he was planning to go to New York?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if the killers knew that he was leaving town the next day, do you know how that information got to them?
I don't.
Did your brother Charlie know that information?
I don't know I don't know if he knew that information.
Did your mother know that information?
My mom usually knew our schedule, so she probably would have known that I was going to have the boys. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that means she knew he was going to be out of town, but she would have known that I had the boys.
And didn't your mom keep meticulous track of every time that Dan went out of town?
Maybe just in the sense that if Danny was out of town, she thought maybe I needed extra help or something. So yes, probably.
And when that became an issue in the divorce, she was able to send you a record going all the way back to 2010, a couple of years of every single date he was out of town. Do you remember that email?
My mom never switched over to like a Google calendar, so she would keep very meticulous, like a calendar of all the things she had to do. And so that was just her way of keeping track of everything. Not just this, but, every part of life.
She's very detail-oriented.
Yes.
Even regarding things that aren't necessarily her business, or do you think that Dan's travel plans were somehow her business?
I think only to the extent that it impacted whether I had the boys or whether they were coming to visit or what that looked like.
Okay.
She agreed that Dan left her a voicemail that morning, telling her that he was going to be at the gym between 9:15 and 10:30. They were trying to touch base that day to talk about the kids' schooling. She also agreed that she talked to Charlie that morning. She reiterated her prior testimony that it was to discuss whether it would be worth it to get a new TV or not. Prosecutor Kappelman asked her if she could definitively tell the jury that she didn't tell Charlie then about Dan's travel plans in that conversation. She said she can't say for sure, but that she doesn't see why she would have brought it up. She was in the car with her parents and kids within 48 hours of the murder, on her way to South Florida, when investigator Isom called her. She said she talked to him for a while, and then the call broke up.
Was it like you're breaking up?
I told him I was having a hard time hearing.
But were you faking that, or was it really breaking up?
I was not faking that.
And did you send your lawyer to him after that, shortly after that?
I told him he could talk to my lawyer. He never followed up.
She agreed that she officially changed the kids' last names to Adelson about a year after Dan's death. On July 3rd, 2014, invitations for Harvey's 70th birthday party went out. Wendy testified that she wasn't sure whether she helped her mom send them or not. In the invite, Wendy's and Dan's son's last names were noted as Adelson. Immediately after Dan's death, with the school activities, the kids' names were also listed as Adelson. Wendy testified that neither she nor the kids attended Dan's funeral.
When was the last time you spoke to your mother, Donna Adelson, as we sit here today?
November of 2023.
Okay. And so she hasn't given you any information or advice about how to testify in court, has she?
Ma'am. No.
What about, you did offer testimony in November of 2023 as well, right, on a related case?
Yes,
Okay.
October.
And did your mom, when you spoke to her in November of 2023, offer you any advice or thoughts about how you should act or behave or what you should say in court?
Yes.
She did?
She did.
And what was that?
I can't tell you I remember exactly, but she was hoping I would be supportive of my brother.
Okay. And do you know what her thoughts were afterwards?
I do.
Okay. And what were they?
She was devastated.
She didn't feel you were supportive?
No.
Were you in any way involved in the plot to kill your ex-husband?
No.
Did you maybe know it was going to happen but not know the details?
I did not know it was going to happen, and I did not know any details.
Did you provide any information, even unknowingly in hindsight, that you think could have been used to assist the murderers?
I don't think so. I didn't provide any information.
What information do you have regarding your mother's involvement in the plot to kill your ex-husband?
I don't have information.
But you do admit that your brother said he looked into hiring a hitman to kill Dan Markel.
I don't. I admit that my brother made a tasteless joke repeatedly about buying me a TV because it was cheaper than hiring a hitman.
But then someone did hire a hitman who did kill Dan Markel, right?
Yes, that happened.
She maintained she was not involved in any plot to kill Dan.
Why did you tell investigator Isom in your law enforcement interview that you were worried the police, or you were worried, I guess, in the police car on the way to be interviewed, that you might be considered a suspect?
Because I couldn't think of anything bad going on in his life other than the divorce. And frequently the ex-wife is a suspect.
Were you treated as a suspect?
I was not.
But you mentioned 9 times in your law enforcement interview being a suspect, didn't you?
I did, yes.
On cross, Wendy was asked if she ever told her parents that she had stipulated to the relocation order being dismissed with prejudice. She said she doesn't remember.
So, not knowing that it was denied with prejudice, your mother thought you still had an opportunity to get it up through your final hearing, right?
I believe so.
And so she kept writing these ugly things and giving you all of these ugly suggestions, right?
She did write those emails.
If you had told her you stipulated with prejudice, that's probably not what you wanted, Mom, but that would have been the end of it, right?
I don't know. I would just be guessing.
Donna Adelson's oldest son, Robert Adelson, testified that he currently lives in New York and has been an ENT for about 20 years. He described his mom as more on the controlling side, which was opposite of his dad. He said she had fixed ideas of what she wanted her kids to do, and if they went along with that, things were fine, and if they didn't, things were not fine. He said he remembered in 2012 Charlie taking control of the Adelson Institute, and then Harvey buying it back in the fall or winter of 2015.
You mentioned Donna Adelson doing payroll at Adelson Institute throughout your life. If someone were to ask Donna Adelson, or if someone asked Donna Adelson to do something, is she the type of person that just snaps to it, or does she have some questions first?
Overall, this is not going to motion. You may answer the question.
No, I don't think she would just snap to and do what someone told her to.
Okay. Is she the type of person who's going to have some questions if you ask her to do something?
I think she would definitely have some questions.
Okay.
He said Donna liked Dan prior to the divorce, but afterwards, she hated him.
Did Donna Adelson ever talk to you about Wendy and Dan Markel's divorce?
Some. I mean, the phrase that sticks in my head is that Danny was depoing Wendy to death. I wasn't involved with, all the various motions. I remember that phrase. I remember there being a lot of, court motions back and forth. But I remember that phrase. I remember, some complaints about like very long either mediation or depositions that Wendy had to endure.
Okay, so this is Donna saying Wendy's having to go through these things.
Yes.
Okay, and just telling you about it.
Yes.
What did Donna Adelson tell you about the plan for Wendy Adelson to leave the marriage?
Sure. When she told me that that she had been in Tallahassee for several months.
This is Donna Adelson had
Yes.
been?
That she had been in Tallahassee for several months. Renting a new place for Wendy, arranging for movers, moving money around, and getting things set up. I only knew this after Wendy had moved out, but she was relating to me what had occurred over the summer. And so I heard this all at once, but, probably 5-6 days after Wendy had moved out. And then told me that somewhat gleefully or, pleased, that they timed the phone call to Danny right before he was supposed to give a speech at the meeting he was at.
During the summer of 2014, before Dan's murder, Rob got a text message from Wendy.
Why was that memorable to you?
It was just unusual. Wendy, never was someone who would, share her, romantic life or boyfriends or, tell me or, text me about anyone she was dating. So it just stood out as, unique or different.
Okay, so I was asking you about this text that you received from Wendy Adelson. Can you tell me about this text?
Sure. She she texted me that she was going to Gainesville for the weekend, and this was 2014. So I last lived in Gainesville about 3 years prior to that. Mentioned that she wanted that. I mentioned the name of Jeff. I asked, "Who is Jeff?" The response was, "My boyfriend." I responded, "I didn't know." And she said, "You wouldn't, I didn't hear it from the parents." She says, "They don't know." And so it just struck me as, and then she sent me some pictures of Jeff with her and the boys. It struck me as unique because she'd never shared the name or photograph of a boyfriend before.
Okay, so
Before you continue, Mr. David, members of the jury, as to the last question and response, you are not to consider the hearsay statement for the truth of the matter asserted. You may continue.
Okay. So it was unusual for her to talk to you about boyfriends at all?
Yes.
But you also felt it was unusual that she's telling you about this boyfriend when even your parents don't know about him yet.
Right.
And she was closer to her parents at the time than you?
Correct.
Okay. What date was that text message sent?
The very end of June, like 26 or 28 of 14, but that last weekend.
He said it was so unusual that after Dan's murder, he felt compelled to tell the FBI about Wendy's secret boyfriend. As for Harvey's 70th birthday, he said there was no family gift, that his dad didn't like gifts, and that his mom had sent them all a text message stating that he didn't want gifts, just wanted to be with them on his birthday. He said the party was at the Continuum. It seemed like his parents were living there at the time. The party was not a surprise to Harvey. Nothing about it was a surprise, he said. Prosecutor Dugan asked him if there was ever a reason the party would be canceled, and he said no. He said he was at a meeting in Chicago when Dan was killed. He recalled getting a phone call first from Donna, and he asked if he could call her back later. He then got a text message from her that read, "Tragedy here, please call." He called her back and she told him that Dan was shot and that they took him to the hospital and that he didn't make it. Prosecutor Dugan asked if she was crying and he said no, she was very matter-of-fact. He spoke to her again the following day.
So the only really other time that I spoke with him that weekend, I was in the airport going home, like Sunday afternoon, so it was definitely the next day. And it was the first time I could actually have any kind of conversation. And, one of the things that she told me is, it bothered me, but I didn't have any other details about. But she said that, someone went to the front door and said, "Are you Dan Markel?" And then shot him. And then I said, "Well, how could you know that? Who's telling you that?" And she said, "Well, that's just what they're telling us." And
okay. So she said someone told her that someone knocked on Danny's door, said, "Are you Dan Markel?" He said yes, and the shooter shot him.
That's the story I heard. And, later we found out that wasn't what happened. But that story bothered me a lot because there's only one way you could hear that story.
Was she crying when she told you that information?
No.
He said the FBI contacted him after Dan's murder, and he gave them an interview. Later that afternoon or the next day, he talked to Donna.
And she called me and said, I just want to let you know, if the police come around, don't talk to them.
Okay, so she told you not to talk to law enforcement.
Correct.
Did you let her know that you already had talked to law enforcement?
Yeah, I said I already did.
What did she say to that?
She said, "Oh, well, you don't know anything anyway."
You don't know anything anyway?
Correct.
Was that an unusual statement coming from your mother?
Yeah, everything that week was unusual, but I clearly didn't know anything, but I wasn't going to not talk to the FBI if they show up at my house.
He was asked if Donna ever seemed curious about who murdered Dan, and he said no. Nobody seemed curious.
Yeah,
Did you actually ever ask her, after the murder, hey, what do you think happened? What do you...
Yeah, and, the conversations were kind of rerouted, or that was certainly discouraged, and it was probably maybe sometime mid-August, when I finally had a chance to ask and say, what is going on? This was not a small event. This was getting a lot of notoriety. And I said, what do you guys think happened? And she had said, I don't know and I don't care. It doesn't concern me.
Was that out of character for her to not be curious and not be asking some questions?
Yeah, I mean, it was an unsolved murder of, my former brother-in-law, like someone that we all know very well. I mean, if it was like some neighborhood gossip, people would be interested. This was like national interest, and nobody had any curiosity about, who did this to Danny.
After that, Donna would avoid talking to him about it. He said the conversation would be rerouted if he brought it up. When Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera were arrested in 2016, he said he and his wife were wondering if they should call his parents and talk to them about it. They decided his parents would surely call them, but they didn't. 2 days later, Donna and Harvey called them to wish them a happy anniversary.
And when she called you, was she telling you the good news that Danny's killers were arrested?
No, just called us for anniversary, and wished us well and had some small talk for a bit. I kind of let it go for a little bit. And I mean, this was not small news. And so I finally broached the topic and said, they found the guy, they arrested someone who killed Danny. There's no response. And I said it, at least 2 or 3 times that, they made an arrest. They got the guy who killed Danny. Yeah, and then her response was, I've got to go.
And then did she hang up the phone after that?
Yes.
And did you ever talk to her about it again, ever after that?
No.
That was the last time he spoke to her. And that's all for part 1. Next time, we'll get into more testimony from the prosecution's case, including Wendy Adelson's ex-boyfriend, Jeff Lacasse, and Catherine Magbanois. We'll also get into the defense's case, and finally, the verdict.
Mrs. Adelson, control yourself.
Thanks again for listening. Until next time.